Welcome to DermTV Viewer Question Week for July 2012. Today's episode will feature questions from DermTV YouTube viewers. And don't forget, as part of Viewer Question Week, I'll be answering viewer questions over live streaming video at beautyrxlive.com. So if you have a question, tune in this Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello, I'm Dr. Neil Schultz, and welcome to DermTV. Today's first question comes from I Love Davy Grolton. And the viewer says, Dr. Schultz, can we use the same sunscreen we use on our face on our eye area also? Important question, because the very sensitive skin of the eye area, of course, is thinner, more sensitive, has fewer oil glands and fewer sweat glands. And the bottom line is, most sunscreens for your face you can use around the eye area. But if you are using a particular sunscreen for very oily skin, or for acne, which is in a very thin alcohol base, which could be irritating, I don't think I'd want to put that near my eyes or on my eyelids. But most lotions and most creams that sunscreens are in for your face, they'll be just fine for the eye area. Second question comes from King Skin Wizard. What are your thoughts on body exfoliation? I exfoliate my body once a week with scrubby gloves, but still have chicken skin in some areas. Can I use a glycolic acid on these areas as well as exfoliating weekly, or will that be over-exfoliating? Thanks, from Tasha. Body exfoliation, I believe, is important. It's just as important for the rest of your body as it is for your face. Obviously, there are different techniques that you can use for your body, and the scrubby gloves that Tasha's using are just fine for helping to remove some of the extra dead cells. For her condition of chicken skin, which is also called keratosis pilaris, obviously it's not sufficient. So for those areas, I would recommend a 10 or 12% glycolic lotion to use on a regular basis. And as long as there's no irritation, and as long as there's no redness, you're not over-exfoliating. So while you've often heard me say that I believe chemical exfoliation is superior to physical exfoliation, there are times where it's appropriate to do both, where they can complement each other, and certainly in this case, for the areas where she has the chicken skin, I would use both the physical exfoliation of the gloves with glycolic chemical exfoliation and try to get a synergy between the two to help make her skin smoother and take care of the keratosis pilaris. Today's next question comes from Moonlit Mask. Thanks for destroying those myths. About shampoo, you said that we should switch shampoo every week or so. What's the reason behind that? Thanks. Actually, what I believe I said in discussing the myths about hair and shampoo is that once a week, it's a good idea to switch off your shampoo, but just for that one day. So you don't need to change a shampoo every week. And as a matter of fact, I use the same shampoo every day except one, and one day a week I use a different one. I can't tell you why there's this acclimatization to shampoo, where after a while there's sort of this fatigue or failure where it just doesn't work as well. But clinically, I can tell you that if you do change your shampoo from time to time, and you just have to change it for one day, because I know most people have a favorite shampoo and they just like the way it feels, and that's why they use it. But just once a week will be sufficient, and that will keep your shampoo doing exactly what you want it to do and leaving your hair the way you like it. Our next question comes from Sharisp2. If we're supposed to use sunscreen to protect our skin from the sun's harmful rays, and people, mostly women, have been following this advice in recent years, then why has there been a spike in cases of skin cancer in young women? What a fabulous question. And the reality is that studies have demonstrated that in the past few years there's been an epidemic of melanoma in women, in white women between the ages of 15 and 39. And there are two reasons for that. First of all, we very strongly believe that it correlates with the increased use of tanning salons and tanning beds in the past decade. And while in general it takes 10, 15, or 20 years from sun damage to actually form a melanoma. The radiation in the sunbeds sometimes is much, much stronger than the radiation you would get outside from the sun. So we have much more exposure in terms of more frequent exposure in the tanning salons, and the actual radiation, the UVA rays, are actually stronger than the ones that you'd be getting outside. That, combined with the fact that there is this latent period, or a waiting period between the time of exposure and the time you get the skin cancer. So the epidemic we're seeing now really was caused by sun exposure 10 years ago, not in the past 2 years or 3 years. So it's a great question. Bear in mind that anytime your skin is tanned, it's darkened only because it's been damaged. That's your body's way of protecting itself from additional damage. So you really don't want to get a tan. I never tell anybody not to go in the sun. I just tell them how to protect themselves in the sun with a sunscreen. And please don't go to tanning salons. Next question comes from Mad for Melanie. Dr. Schultz, when I put sunscreen on my hands and face every day, and I wash my hands throughout the day, do I need to reapply the sunscreen to my hands each time? And by the way, somebody added on to that question that often I do episodes about these things, but that person suggested, was his opinion, that the sunscreen, if the sunscreen says that it's water resistant, then it's fine not to reapply if you just wash your hands, because after all, water resistant sunscreen is made to resist salt water, so regular tap water should have no effect on it. The question is very good. The comment is right on target. Water resistant, first of all, there's no such thing as a waterproof sunscreen, but water resistant sunscreens now are labeled, or will soon be labeled by the new labeling requirements by the FDA as water resistant for 40 minutes or 80 minutes, which means that if it's water resistant for 40 minutes and you spend a minute washing your hands, we have every reason to believe that there'll be a substantial amount of sunscreen left on your hands, whether you're using salt water or regular tap water. So the bottom line is, as long as it is a water-resistant sunscreen, from occasional washing your hands throughout the day, it will not necessarily be needed to apply more sunscreen. But of course, anytime you're applying more sunscreen to your face, you're also applying it to your hands. Last question for today, and this comes from LILQTXANQ31. Thank you. Do sunless tanners cause spots or freckles on the skin? Interesting question. What you're really describing is if you have spots on your skin, brown spots, which often are caused by a slight thickening of the upper layer of skin, which is the beginning of a sun freckle or age spot or sunspot, or if it's even an early age-related keratosis, which is just a little bit of a thickening on the skin, which is often tan or brown, and you put sunless tanner on, those spots are going to get even darker than the area around it. And that's because of the principle of sunless tanners, which is they stain the dead cells. Well, these age spots, liver spots, or keratoses have more dead cells than the skin around them. So obviously, they therefore can take up more of the stain in the sunless tanner. So that's why those spots tend to get even darker out of proportion to the areas around them, which goes back to the fact that we say if you want to get the most even tan from a sunless tanner, you need to exfoliate before you use it, whether it's on your body or on your face, to remove as many of the excess dead cells as possible so you get the most even absorption of the stain and the most even tone from the self-tanner. So that's it for today. And don't forget, the subjects from so many DermTV episodes come from your questions, which are great. So please, keep sending them in, and I'll keep answering as many of them as I can. Please join me again at dermtv.com. If you have a question, please send it to me by visiting dermtv.com/question. I'm Dr. Neil Schultz, and thank you for watching today.